How can we protect critically important facilities? How can we quickly adapt to the enemy's new tactical strategy? And where can we get the means that are capable of effectively and actively repelling Shahed attacks? One of the developments is an anti-aircraft interceptor drone. Currently, such a drone is only available to regular units of the defense forces, but soon mobile fire groups of volunteer formations will have them as well. Our correspondent Stanislav Kukarchuk witnessed how interceptor drones work and how our air defenders repel night attacks. An exclusive report from Cherkasy is coming up next.
These shots of a massive drone attack were filmed by one of the mobile fire groups in the Cherkasy region. Shaheds were flying in waves toward the target, which was being protected by anti-aircraft gunners. And the closer it gets to winter, the more frequent these attacks become. We couldn't shoot because we would have hit the house. In the evening, the mobile fire group of one of the Cherkasy territorial defense units prepares for a combat deployment. These guys are defending against enemy drones 1 of the energy facilities in the Cherkasy region. Over the past month, the Russians have intensified their attacks on them so they don't have to wait long for an alarm. As soon as the group arrives at the location, they are immediately put on the highest combat alert. The Russians launched mass Shahed drone attacks from 3 directions at once.
A huge number.
Of all of them, indeed.
More than
a full 100, precisely, exactly.
And most of them are heading straight for the facility being protected by the mobile fire group.
They're coming in thick over our position. Call Portyanka. See if he's alive and well. Shine the spotlight. Target acquired. Fire.
During this raid, the enemy once again changed tactics. The Shaheds are approaching their targets at extremely low altitudes, making them invisible to radar. So the anti-aircraft gunners have to detect the drones only by sound and visually, and that's not so easy.
There was nothing, and then they suddenly appeared, and everyone just like that, boss.
They really changed tactics, right?
Yes. Well, it was completely different on the tablet, and then they were gone. You saw it.
Shahed! And this kind of hellish barrage of attacks happens almost every night. At low altitudes, small arms are effective against Shaheds. But at an altitude of 2 to 3 kilometers, the enemy drone is already out of reach for machine guns. In such cases, aviation and anti-aircraft drones are effective. The latter are already in service with regular air defense units. Now it's the turn of the volunteer formations. In Cherkasy, this program is currently being implemented.
We actively involve skilled pilots operating advanced unmanned aerial vehicles to effectively intercept these unauthorized drones. 1. We help our mobile fire teams shoot down those targets that are out of reach for small arms. That's the only way. There's simply no other way.
This is what the very same anti-aircraft drone looks like, the one that is planned to be supplied to the Cherkasy mobile fire teams. Ivan and his colleague are the first interceptor pilots in the unit. They are familiar with this kind of equipment, so there is nothing difficult for the fighters in training and flying.
For individuals who have previously worked with conventional standard drones, there was absolutely nothing that was radically or significantly more challenging or difficult to manage.
For now, everything will be fine. A masterful landing, I didn't even break a sweat.
The necessary equipment for the job is available, says Ivan. What's lacking are people who would like to defend the sky with the help of drones. There are also certain bureaucratic obstacles for the work of the DFTG crews themselves.
To train the pilots and give them the opportunity to work, to allow them to work so that there is a combat order an order at least to conduct the first trial interceptions, for example, without a warhead, in order to prove the capability that the crew is ready and the equipment is ready. My task is to close the sky over Cherkasy, over the Cherkasy district. This is something I personally need very much.
It is unknown when the crews of drone interceptor operators will reinforce the mobile groups of the Cherkasy Territorial Defense Volunteer Unit. So for now, the volunteer formations can only rely on small arms. Stanislav Kukarchuk, Vyacheslav Romadan. Details on the Intermarathon TV channel. United News.
For the second time in a few days, the Russians launched a mechanized assault on Dobropilya. The occupiers are trying to recapture the village of Volodymyrivka from our defenders, where enemy troops are partially blocked. However, the occupiers' vehicles are burning and their infantry is dying. And it's not just thanks to Ukrainian FPV drones. Ukrainian rocket forces are also helping to repel these attacks. An MLRS system firing long-range rockets once again helped stop the Russian advance. This is a HIMARS-type system. And how it happened was witnessed by TSN special correspondent Yulia Kiriyenko. Watch her report next.
A rocket is flying toward a column of Russian vehicles heading to storm the outskirts of Dobropilya. 6 tanks, several dozen armored vehicles and hundreds of Russian infantry on motorcycles tried to break through to the village of Volodymyrivka to cut off our troops and unblock their own. This is the longest-range MLRS, the American multiple launch rocket system. It is from these launchers that our troops fire Attack-MS missiles, and now they are about to go into action. However, not with those, but with another type of missile targeting the enemy in the Dobropilya direction. The operator is preparing to fire again. The morning is extremely intense, say the rocket troops. There hasn't been an enemy assault like this on this section of the front for several months in a row. Shots from long-range artillery are echoing from every tree line. There are 2 people operating this MLRS. While one controls the tracked vehicle, the other enters the firing data into the tablet. Another rocket flies toward the convoy and actually stops it. The rocket operators fire the MLRS with such confidence because they are the very first crew of this vehicle since it was delivered to Ukraine by international partners. At the very beginning of the full-scale invasion, the soldiers worked with Smerch systems, and in 2022, even when they went abroad for training, they didn't immediately believe they would switch to the MLRS.
We actually learned everything in just 3 weeks. We arrived and started working with these systems on the 3rd day.
They sent us for training. We completed the course. At first, of course, no one believed that they would actually deliver them to Ukraine. But eventually, to our surprise, we did receive them and immediately got to work.
This rocket system is just like the HIMARS, except that one is wheeled, while the MLRS is on a Bradley-tracked platform, so it's not at all afraid of the muddy fields of Donetsk region. It moves quickly between tree lines to choose the best firing position. With it, the rocket troops destroyed more than one enemy shelter, especially after, a year later in 2023, they received long-range Attack-MS missiles.
There were artillery pieces, there were command posts, there were UAV posts, there was infantry, there were dugouts, there were structures.
All the targets that exist, all that are possible.
With the Attack-MS, of course, they could reach even further, deep into the rear of the occupied territories.
It was about a year ago with those Attack-MS. About a year ago this happened.
300 kilometers up to 500, those are the ones they gave us. You can hit targets located in the rear, including those same command posts.
At that time, the missile forces soldiers significantly decapitated the enemy's army. Now they are covering our assault troops during the Dobropilya operation. They say they're not sparing the missiles and there are reserves, although they've repeatedly felt how political circumstances on the international stage affect supplies.
It comes in waves somehow. Sometimes something up there at the top doesn't work out for them. There were delays. Then, everything got sorted out. Now it's stable. We finished the job, they brought more. For now, there's nothing to work with.
So the launcher heads out to the Donetsk fields again and prepares another rocket for firing. The enemy took advantage of the bad weather and under the cover of fog moved in with vehicles to launch an assault. But this fog also works in favor of the rocket crews, as it hides the MLRS from Russian reconnaissance drones, for which such a system is a prime target. To destroy it, the occupiers don't even spare their Iskander. Still, even with the fog, vigilance is essential. So after each shot, the MLRS crew changes position, and while they're moving to a new one, the vehicle commander receives a message from headquarters. The columns of Russians have been completely stopped. Now it's up to the FPV drone operators, who finish off enemy equipment on the battlefield, burning it to completely halt the Russian assault. Yulia Kirienko, Alexander Shiyan, Ole Mostovi, TSN 1+1.